Christians have, for a variety of reasons, separated into different groups. And one of the Bible passages that was spoken frequently at the workshop and that we reflected upon is from John chapter 17, where Jesus, this is on Maundy Thursday, the night before, he gives his life for all people. Jesus is thinking about his disciples and thinking about the Christian movement that will grow forth. And his prayer to God is, speaking about all of his followers, that they may all be one. Just, O Father, as you are in me and I am in you, let them be in us. And that's where the unity comes from, that they may all be one. Now, what does that mean when Jesus prays that all of us Christians be one? What is he actually praying for? I'm not sure that he's praying that all Christians literally merge into one single church body, one single organized denomination. I think that there are actually some benefits in us Christians blossoming into different distinct groups because it's a way for different gifts to emerge, different kinds of music, different specialties in ministry, different ways of worshiping and so forth. It's like when you want to go out to dinner at a good restaurant, and most of us are thankful that there's a variety of restaurants to go to, Chinese, Thai, Mexican food. If we went out and every single restaurant was exactly the same, that might be something of a disappointment. And so you could argue, and I actually think this is true, that it's kind of a blossoming of God's gifts, that Christians have often grouped themselves with particular gifts, particular emphases. But the other side of that, though, is that we Christians, most of the time, when new Christian groups have emerged, it's been out of conflict. It's been when Christians are angry at each other, when they judge each other, when they stand and point to another group of Christians and say, we're better than you are, you're not Christians, we are. And so there's a lot of painful brokenness within the Christian community throughout the world and in the United States. And so I think what Jesus is praying for when he prays to God that they might all be one is that at a deeper level, below the kind of structure of incorporations and denominations, at a deeper level, we Christians really can look on each other, even with all of our differences, and realize that we are really brothers and sisters. That which unites us is far greater than that which divides us. That we are created by one God, we are led by the same Christ, that we are stirred by the same Spirit, and that we have so much in common, and that we begin to really work together in the world as brothers and sisters. And it's fine to have disagreements. It's fine to passionately argue our position. Jesus really calls us to give our witness and to stand up for what we believe in. And we can even learn through these debates and these dialogues that we have with each other. We can press further for the truth. And so there's some gifts that come out of our dialogue and even our struggle with each other. But finally, when all is said and done, to realize that all of us who follow Jesus are one family, one body. I thought about how it's like the oceans of the world. If you have a globe and they've labeled the bodies of water, they typically list 5 oceans. The Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, and the Southern Ocean, which is the name they gave to the ocean around Antarctica. And then there's inlets, there's bays, there's sound. Every place has its name. But really, there aren't 5 oceans. There is just one ocean. There's this streaming body of water that they all belong to each other. And I think that's the image that Jesus has for us, is that we may be grouped in different families, different parts of the family, different relatives, but finally we are fed by the Spirit of God and breathed into by the Spirit of God. And at the very deepest level, we are one with each other. And so we carry out this work of trying to celebrate that more, and Christians getting together to really work out how we can get along better with each other. One of the stories that was told, a true story that was told at the workshop, was about a young priest who went to visit Mother Teresa when he was first getting started. And he said, this was when Mother Teresa was still alive, and he said, Mother Teresa, he says, I want to dedicate my ministry to helping Christians come together. I want to dedicate my ministry to creating Christian unity. How should I begin? How should I start? And Mother Teresa smiled at him and said, you can start by keeping out of God's way. Now, what was she saying? I think that what she was saying is that Christian unity is really not something we make. It's something God gives to us. It's a gift. In fact, it's a given. We are one. We are part of that ocean of God's Spirit. God is continually at work making us one. God has already made us one by our creation and by our following Christ and being stirred with the Spirit. And so at the very least, we should stay out of God's way, or better yet, go with God in all that work. So we don't create through our efforts Christian unity. What we do, however, is to open our eyes to it and then to make use of it and actually learn how to work with each other. As I said before, that's a difficult task because at times the relationships among Christians has been very bitter and very violent. And in fact, thinking about our own Lutheran history, for example, historians say that the longest continuous war in the history of humankind was the 30 Years' War that took place from 1618 to 1648, in which this was after the time of Martin Luther. This was following the main point of the Reformation. For 30 continuous years, Lutherans and Catholics fought each other in open warfare, and it involved all the countries of Europe, but it was particularly focused in Germany. And during that warfare, 50% of all the men in Germany died in that war. And in many other countries, the total population of most of the countries of Europe was reduced by 1/3 to 2/3 of their population. At the same time, Lutherans during that time, also Lutheran leaders encouraged the local authorities to round up and arrest and even execute all of the Mennonites, which was a smaller Protestant group. They were a Protestant group, but Lutherans says round them up and if necessary, kill them because their theology of baptism is not correct. Christians killing Christians over how to baptize. I'm very thankful that our Christian family has largely gotten past at least open warfare in most parts of the world. I'm thankful for that. But there is still tensions. There are still churches where if you attend a church, you would not be welcome to come to the Lord's Supper because you weren't a member of that church. And there are still churches in which Christians stand up and criticize each other in public. And so the work goes on. The work of God goes on to bring us together. And our work, as I said, is to open our eyes to see what God is doing in our midst. And so that's why it was enjoyable to go to this conference in Oklahoma City and see people from many different denominations who all had the common dream and the common vision that we are one. Let's live it. Let's stay out of God's way. Let's live it. I'm very thankful that our own national church body, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, has been a real leader in working towards Christian unity. That both at the national and at the global level and also at the local level, ELCA Lutherans, from our national leadership down to our local neighborhoods, have really been at work trying to develop better relationships with the Christian churches around them and also to work together. Our ELCA, over the last 50 years, has been in dialogue and conversation with a number of other Christian denominations in the United States to develop closer relationships. And the ELCA has voted on and approved of what's called full communion with 6 other Christian denominations: the Episcopalians, the Presbyterians, the Reformed Church in America, the United Church of Christ, the Moravian Church, and the United Methodist Church. We've declared full communion with them. And what that means is that after 20 years of dialogue, we have examined and discovered that we believe the same thing about baptism, about the Lord's Supper. Our basic beliefs are in agreement. It's not that we've merged. We're still distinct church bodies, but we can interchange pastors with those groups. We are in full communion. We are fully recognizing them as brothers and sisters in Christ with those 6 churches. In the meantime, the ELCA is also actively involved in what they call bilateral conversation, that is dialogue, with a number of other Christian denominations in the United States as they work towards better agreement, as they work towards better cooperation. And the groups that the ELCA is in this bilateral conversation with, in which we send our representatives and they send theirs, it includes 2 of the main African American Christian denominations in the United States, the